Hello everyone, welcome to today's session on your user interface and user experience design, Chuka GDG. And for today, we're going to look at personas, framing, and information architecture. This session will mark our week 3, session 1, and it's a combined session. And we're going to look at the reason as to why it's a combined session. So, today you're going to transition from understanding users to structuring solutions, and our intro quote for today is research without structure is insight wasted. So, like I said, we're going to look at the reason as to why we have this session combined with what you're supposed to have in week 2, session 2. And there are two reasons. One, I was not available at the moment. Two, uh, in a real UX setting, or in a real user experience work, research doesn't stop uh, until the structure is done. Like it's usually a loop. You will still do research even on your past user research. That is gotten into empathy maps, personas, and information architecture. That doesn't mean that research is done. And another reason is personas directly influence the information architecture. So yeah, that's why that's why the session is combined. Like we week 2 session 2 is combined with week 3 session 1. And for today, we are going to cover three key things. That is clarify personas, or who are we designing for. We are going to define what problem we are solving and decide how information should be structured. Okay, before we move on, I know some of you might be wondering why am I not seeing Figma around? Yeah, we're almost coming to that. We have to complete the user experience part and yeah, understand how designing works, because you don't just get to Figma and then start designing. In our session on Figma, we looked into Figma and defined Figma as a tool that designers use to visualize their thoughts and not actually design or implement whatever they have structured or designed, like in terms of uh, looking into the problem at hand and how is it going to be solved, or how to approach it in terms of creating designs that actually work for the user. Yeah. So, and that is okay. That is basically the reason as to why we need to do user experience first before transitioning to uh, uh, user interface design. So, and that's it about why today's session is combined. So let's look at a quick recap on user research. So from the last session, we learned that assumptions are not facts, and you remember we talked about assumptions. We said you don't assume that these users will need this and this and this, or this is the problem that will be solved, or this is what the user will think. No, you don't assume that. You have to, conduct some research and perform interviews if you can, so as you can get feedback from the users. The other thing that we learned is users are busy, and they're not kind of stupid in the sense of not that a user doesn't know to use a design or a product in terms of design. It's just that they're usually busy. They usually want to get something done fast. So if a user interface doesn't communicate effectively and efficiently, then they won't get the job done. And As a designer, you might say this thing is too easy. This thing is too easy for one to navigate through. But in such a scenario, yeah, it's not that it's not hard, but if a user is pressured and wants to use your product as fast as he or she can, then they might end up, not even seeing some stuff which are kind of hidden here and there. And yeah, and you'll end up overlooking your users and, saying, "Ah, niaje hawaoni this stuff." So yeah, that's also another thing that we looked at. Then the other thing that we looked at was research usually gives us, first-hand data. Let me just call it that way, because you don't assume. You get feedback from users, and you can even get more feedback. I remember when you talked about open-ended questions. Yeah, so that's what we had in our last session. And then one thing we need to note about getting first-hand data, sometimes it can be messy. You can get, you know, different people having different opinions about something. You know, you might get one guy saying this, uh, the other guy saying, or multiple people saying the opposite of what this guy said earlier on. Yeah, and that usually usually ends up with a designer getting, uh, data that is, you know weird, messy, and yeah, you don't know how to proceed with that. So yeah, that's what we looked at in our last session. So now in today's session, we are going to look at, like I said, personas, empathy maps, and we also have jobs to be done, and we have information architecture. So now, now, turning research into clarity. So now that we have looked into user research, it's time that we summarize the research and you know tie it, or narrow it down to target users or people who are going to use the system, and make decisions about what needs to be designed. And that's what you're going to look at today. And those are actually the things that uh, we will need, so as we can go ahead and create interactive designs. And so as you can know, so as you can summarize research, so that you can avoid designing for everyone and focus on decisions or make decisions. We'll need some tools that are usually in user experience design, and that is personas. Personas basically gives us an overview about a user. We're going to look into that. We also have empathy maps. Empathy maps, they usually bring about the thought of a user in terms of what they feel, what they do, what they say, what they think. And we have problem statements, which yeah, are going to be answered with information architecture, or yeah, you can say jobs to be done also. So yeah, that's what you're going to look at today, and those are the tools that you're going to use. And this session will have two parts, and our first part will be covering personas and problem framing, and our second part will be covering information architecture. So let's dive deeper into part one, that is personas and problem framing. So what is a persona? So when you think about a persona, you can say it's a character that a designer creates, so as they can represent a specific group of users that are like target users, or users that are going to use the product that a designer is creating. So or in simple terms, you can say it's a realistic representation of a user type. So, and it's usually based on research. So think of it as a character profile. And imagine, you're going to look into why I'm saying imagine. Imagine you're writing a story. Uh, Imagine you're writing a story. Then if the persona will be, the character in that story or something of sort, something of sort. And this character usually has, a name, uh, a goal, a goal in some cases. Sometimes they have pain points or something they really want to do, and they also have behaviors. So yeah, uh, that's a persona. So now, why have a persona? Why do you need one? Uh, you need a persona so that you can be able to make decisions and also visualize a real user who is going to use the product. And you also need a persona so that you can narrow down to only include features that we call MVP features when designing a product, so that you don't burden yourself with, a fully fledged kind of thing when a user really needs something, that works, doesn't need extra features like animations, etc, etc. Yeah, so that is the reason as to why we usually have personas. So now, what a persona or what personas are not. So we have looked into who are actually personas. So and now personas are not fictional stories. Remember when I said, uh, imagine if you're writing a story, yeah, and I stressed on imagine so that you don't take that analogy literally in the personas use case. So personas are not fictional stories. Like uh, a persona is a target user. Like is a user who's going to use your design. It's not some fictional character or who is going to use some fictional design out there or something like that. Now personas are also not demographic only, uh, and also they are not everyone. That's why they are target users. You can't design for everyone. You only design for people who are going to use that, or people who are going to use the product you're designing, so they can solve a problem they want to solve. So now down here we have a bad persona kind of example. We have this one here, Kevin, 21, likes apps. uh, that's a I mean, many people like apps. Many people are 21 and many people are called Kevin. So like I said, personas need to be clearly defined, and they need to be real users and also need to be target users. So now, I think you've mentioned this at some point. So what makes a good persona? Uh, a good persona, a good persona will include uh, goals, uh, or things they want to achieve. So let's take a use case of imagine that you're building a fitness app. Uh, then let's say we have a guy called Ben. He really wants to go to the gym so that he can keep fit. So from that statement, we have already seen the goal of Ben. They want to keep fit. You see, that was already defined what they want. So let's move on and continue defining what Ben really wants. So for Ben, now Ben wants to keep fit, and he really wants to squeeze some time for the workout or to keep fit early in the morning. say before kids wake up. Uh, that's around five, maybe five, uh, around five there. And now Ben has this problem. Most apps usually have 60 minutes video and require too much setup. So that is the problem that Ben has. So he wants to work out 15 minutes before the kids wake up, and then he realizes that most of these apps that help one keep fit, they have these long videos that take 60 minutes, so as you can complete, and you don't want to leave that thing halfway. So you want to do it fully. So now from that, we already seen the persona, the goals, uh, let's say kind of frustration, though in this case it's a pain point. We have seen also the context, and now about the behavior. So we've not seen the behavior really, but let's say, yeah, they really want to keep with their normal schedule. That is, they do their workout 15 minutes before waking up the kids and taking them to school. So yeah, that is an example of a good persona. They must include goals, frustrations, or pain points, and then they should have a context and then behaviors. So now, in that scenario of Ben, uh, now the problem here is that the existing apps that help with keeping fit, they have long videos, and Ben wants to squeeze 15 minutes so that doesn't wake up the kids late or doesn't have to reschedule their daily routine.